And now, suspense.
You happen to notice anyone at all hanging around the premises before you went home for the evening?
I didn't see anyone when I left.
Probably just some punk kids getting their jollies then. It's a damn shame. Seems like a nice store. I'll leave you a copy of this police report. Your insurance company should cover the damages since the alarm system failed. I need a few minutes, okay?
We touched on about this a little bit ago, but how do you go about with, dealing with not booking something that you really wanted?
Ooh, I'm not gonna lie. It hurts. It hurts sometimes. It's like I save since we stopped going to the casting director's office and started doing. We self-tape now. All of us have to do our own auditions. So we're basically taping our own auditions, finding our own readers, all these things that the casting director and their assistants used to do for us, we're now doing on our own. And it has some benefits. It has some downfalls, I think. But one of the things that allows me to do is I can save all of my tapes. So I'll go back every once in a while and watch my old auditions, and I'll go, okay, this is what I liked about this tape. This is what I could have done better. This one should have never been put on tape in the first place. This one's really good. I don't know why I didn't book that role. In fact, one that I was looking at today, I think was my best audition of the year. And it was for a 3 or 4 episode role on a show that's going to be airing on Showtime sometime next year. And I keep looking at that tape and I'm like, why did I not book that role? Like, the tape was great. I was right based on the character description. I did the work. It was natural. It was amazing. And then, there's the emotional part of dealing with not booking a role. And it just feels like any other rejection. It's like, you go through all the typical questions like, am I not good enough? Am I not this? Am I not that? And once I learned more about the casting process, it's just easier to deal with now. Oftentimes, the last thing that I booked at the end of my shoot day, the producer, who was also directing the episode, came up to me after I was wrapped and he said, you know what, dude? We looked at 55 or 60 actors for this role. And the reason we booked you was ... You brought this ease to the role that we thought it needed. So I just wanted you to know we looked at a lot of people and you got it. And that doesn't happen very often. You never find out why you didn't book the role. And not very often you find out why you booked the role. Nobody ever gives you feedback either way, most of the time. Sometimes it's simple things like you're too tall compared to the rest of the cast, or you don't look like the son of the guy that we're casting for the father role, or you don't look enough like the mother to be the son believably. And there's so many things that go into the casting process that I think new actors don't think about. It doesn't always have to be emotional. Sometimes it's just, that producer cast their best friend's son, or that producer wanted to help their nephew get into the business, or this dude looks better against the rest of the cast than you do, or they fit the story the way that the story needs to be told in the director's eye. And it's once I learned all those things about the casting process, I don't have to deal with the emotional side so much anymore. But what I do is I go back and I watch my tapes and I'm honest and brutal with myself. And I go, okay, that wasn't good enough, or that was the wrong choice, or you clearly phoned that one in. You were having a bad day, or didn't care about booking the role, which is never the case. But I've learned to take anytime I don't book a role, I just use it as, okay, what can I do? How do I do my part of the process better next time? How do I bring the best version of myself to the process next time? And if it fits the concept, so be it. If it doesn't, then it was never mine. It was never supposed to be mine in the first place.
Yeah, that's a good way of going about it. I mean, I kind of feel the same way too when I first started this whole process and trying to book like interviews with different actors and directors and stuff like that. It can get pretty daunting at times, especially because you sometimes don't even get a more proper like reasoning of like, so why can't we do this? And I think like not knowing, like you were saying, like a lot of times in the auditions, they don't ever tell you. I don't think I've ever known anybody who I've talked to was ever told why they didn't book something, or even why they did. It's just like, all right, you got it, and that's really it. I feel like a lot of times they don't. I don't know how you feel about it, but I feel like a lot of times they don't question it. They're just like, if you get it, you get it. Cool. I don't want to know why I got it, as long as I got it. But you do a lot of times want to know why you didn't get something. And that just comes with I think being human, like it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's for a job application or, just anything you're doing, you always kind of want to know for, just the question of like, what could I have done better? For me, I want to know why I didn't, just because I want to know what can I do better? How can I improve on myself, or how can I improve my craft to get to where I want to be?
Right. Totally. Totally. I do, if you don't mind, I have a couple of, this is the heartbreak of my career. I think this is a good part of the conversation to insert this, because there's a segue. I was teaching high school theater, and I was also auditioning, also became a new dad, all at the same time. And during my third or fourth year of being a high school teacher, I got called in. I read for Breaking Bad probably 45 or 50 times. Okay. And I'd never booked a single role, single episode, any of it. And I remember being in the casting director's office one day with my friend Michael, who's another actor. And we were reading, I don't know if we were reading for the same role or roles in the same episode or what. And he looked at me dead in the eyes. And this guy was like a good friend of mine. He goes, dude, you're never going to be on this show. And I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, you look too much like Jesse Pinkman, dude. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay, so maybe that's the reason I've never booked Breaking Bad, is because Aaron Paul and I look too much in the same type or whatever, that I would have to play his brother and they haven't written his brother, or I'd have to play his cousin, they haven't written. But it was like I give him crap about it every time I see him. I'm like, remember when you, because like if he said it and then he just turned away, like if he could have sprayed Banaka into his mouth before he turned away, that's the only way it would have been better, a better burn in the moment. So my heartbreak of my career revolves around Breaking Bad, and everybody that will listen has heard this story. But when I was teaching high school theater, I got called in for this audition. I knew it was for Breaking Bad. I had no idea what the role was. They were very secretive with all the sides. A lot of the time, the sides were not even real dialogue from a real show. They just wrote something to use for auditions so that material wouldn't leak, stories wouldn't leak or whatever. And I got called back in for this same audition for 3 weeks. And I'm teaching, and then I'm auditioning, and then I'm teaching, and I'm auditioning, and I'm being a dad, and for the same role for 3 weeks. And my kids were like, Mister, if you get this role, are you going to take it? And I was like, you guys, I started acting at about your age. It's my dream in life to be a full-time actor. I said, if you ever have something in your life that you want to chase, I will always tell you to chase it. And then I said, basically $30,000 a year as a teacher, or $30,000 a week if I book this role. And they were like, oh, go, you go, take it. We love you, but take it. Anyway, these weeks go by, and I finally get a call from my agent, and I said, hello. And she just sighed. She just, and I said, what? And she said, there was a knockdown, drag out fight behind closed doors at the network in LA, and the other guy got it. And I was like, oh, I hadn't counted the money yet, or, done the thing like the lottery ticket thing where I imagined all the things I would be able to do. But I was disappointed, because I knew that if I was going back in for 3 weeks for this big piece of, 5 or 6 pages of dialogue, that it was something significant. Well, it turns out it was the role of Todd that was the entire season 5 role that Jesse Plemons played. The dude that shoots the little kid off the motorcycle and becomes part of their crew. And then I watched the show and I was like, oh, that's Jesse Plemons from Friday Night Lights. And I said, and second of all, he's perfect in that role. I wouldn't have done that role the same justice that he did. And that was something that sort of let me off the hook from beating myself up. I was like, what did I do wrong? And then I saw the show and I went, oh, he was dynamite in that role. He was perfect. I would not have approached it in a way that would have worked probably for that show successfully. And he's moved on to having, he had a great career to begin with Friday Night Lights, and then Breaking Bad, and then El Camino, the movie. And then I think was either nominated for a Golden Globe or won a Golden Globe for something recently. So it was a heartbreak at the time. And it continues to be my biggest like near miss on something that would have been career altering, I think, for me.
I think those can always be teaching moments. But then it's also good that you're able to, humble yourself and just be like, hey, I didn't get it, but the guy who did ended up doing a great job. So good for him,
Yep. I see that a lot, like, especially with the shows that are shot in New Mexico. I'll be going through a show on Netflix or Hulu or Prime or whatever, and I'll start hearing dialogue and I go, oh, I read for that.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I go, okay, I could have done that. And sometimes I go, oh, that person is completely right for this role. You know what I mean? And so that's the mentality of the actors in New Mexico that feels like a family, is that we all, for the most part, cheer each other on. We want somebody in our town to book roles. We want somebody in our friend group to book the role if we don't. And if we do, I can always expect my friends to cheer me on. When I tell somebody that even if it's somebody else who read for the same role and I book it, it's love.